So imagine you are holding, like the ultimate medical rule book for the human mind. The manual that decides with absolute authority what is normal and what is, well, what is a disorder.
Right, the one that gets the final say on everything.
Exactly. But now imagine if the main architect of that rule book, the guy actually defining all those boundaries, had a mind that perfectly mirrored the very differences the book was pathologizing.
It is just a massive paradigm shift. I mean, it completely flips our understanding of psychiatric authority on its head, you know?
It really does. So today on our deep dive, we are unpacking this really fascinating essay and some surrounding research on neurodiversity. We're looking at a pretty profound irony at the foundation of modern psychiatry.
Oh, for sure. And how the neurodiversity paradigm is kind of transforming medicine from the inside out, which is exactly why we need to talk about Robert Spitzer.
Yes, Robert Spitzer, the trailblazing psychiatrist who completely overhauled the DSM. That is the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, for anyone who might not know.
Right. And Spitzer, well, he shaped modern psychiatry more than almost anyone in the last 50 years. His colleague, Alan Francis, actually noted that Spitzer literally lived the DSM 24/7 for over 50 years.
24/7.
Yeah, he had what is called a monotropic focus. So his brain didn't constantly scan his environment for, you know, social data.
Right, it was all channeled into one thing.
Exactly. It basically funneled all his cognitive energy into one massive system, which was the DSM.
And our sources point out that he notoriously missed social cues.
Yeah.
Right, like he wouldn't greet colleagues or even acknowledge people speaking directly to him.
Yeah, he even admitted he had no idea how to buy presents for people because he couldn't project what another person might want.
That is wild. It is honestly like a brilliant software engineer looking at the messy, chaotic code of human emotions and then forcing it into strict binary lines of logic just to build an operating system.
That is a great analogy, and that lack of emotional understanding actually provided less noise, so to speak, for labeling psychiatric symptoms.
Less noise. I like that phrasing.
All right, by stripping away those subjective emotional nuances, he was able to turn all this messy human suffering into a very rigid categorical system, just objective data points.
Which is a classic systemizing behavior.
Exactly. Now, obviously, we can't ethically retroactively diagnose him, but the profound irony here is that the DSM-3 was the product of a mind exhibiting, well, classic qualities of autistic intelligence.
So a mind utilizing these intense systemizing traits essentially codified the norms that historically pathologized those exact cognitive differences.
You hit the nail on the head.
Yep.
Because his mind worked like a categorizing machine, the DSM treats human distress like a strict checklist.
And that checklist completely ignores a person's environment, which is exactly why openly autistic psychiatrists today are really fighting back against it because, well, the DSM essentially requires clinical impairment to get an autism diagnosis.
Meaning you basically have to be visibly struggling.
Right. Wait, that criteria just makes no sense to me. I mean, if an autistic person has a great support system at work and they aren't visibly suffering, the DSM implies they are no longer autistic.
Yeah, that is the traditional deficit model in action.
But that just means the environment is working. It doesn't mean their brain suddenly changed.
Oh, absolutely. And that is exactly why the neurodiversity paradigm argues that autism is both a disability and a difference. A lot of the disability actually stems from a mismatch between a person and their environment.
That makes so much more sense.
It does. And you've hit on the exact reason a whole new wave of practitioners is challenging this old framework. The data in our sources is just incredible on this.
Oh, a study about the psychiatrists, right?
Yes. A highlighted study shows that autistic psychiatrists actually build much better relationships with their autistic patients. They spot diagnoses faster and way more accurately.
Because they have that insider perspective, I'm guessing.
Exactly. But there is a pretty heartbreaking catch to this.
Yeah, there usually is.
Because of that deficit framing still embedded in the DSM, there is immense professional shame. Shockingly, less than a third of these autistic doctors actually disclose their autism to their colleagues.
Less than a third. Wow. It just feels impossible to change a rule book from the outside. You would almost have to, I don't know, infiltrate it.
Which, ironically, is exactly what Spitzer helped someone else do back in the 70s.
Oh, right, the John E. Fryer story.
Yeah.
Because back in 1972, homosexuality was still classified as a mental disorder in the DSM.
Exactly. And Fryer, who is a psychiatrist himself, went to a major convention in a literal disguise as Dr. H. Anonymous. He just declared to the whole room, I am a homosexual, I am a psychiatrist.
Such a totally pivotal moment in history.
It really was. And that brave act catalyzed Spitzer to actually lead the crusade in 1973 to get homosexuality removed from the DSM.
So by standing up there in that disguise, Fryer cracked the foundation of that stigma from the inside out.
Yes. And today, openly autistic doctors are striving to be those exact same change makers. By being visible, they are dismantling the pathologizing of neurodivergence right from within the medical profession itself.
You know, if you have ever felt like you didn't quite fit the normal mold at your job or in your life, this really changes everything.
It invalidates so
That
much.
really proves that the mold itself was built by someone who didn't fit it either. Embracing neurodiversity doesn't compromise medical practice at all. It strengthens it.
Because the very differences we have historically labeled as deficits might actually be the keys to better empathy and better care. It just forces us to fundamentally question our assumptions about competence and authority.
It brings us right back to that medical rule book we talked about at the very start of our deep dive. If the very architects of clinical normality were themselves neurodivergent, well, how many other rigid structures in our society were actually designed by minds that never fit the mold?